SI spot that you were in, but I know the NFL also featured you, correct?
Yeah, I was a part of their Fit for Women campaign a few years ago.
Awesome. So, yeah, I mean, you did a lot of great things, and we connected, and ever since, hey, it's just been a blast to know that you've done such a great job. And now you're married, and now you have a beautiful family. You're a handsome husband and a handsome young man who's stealing hearts, I heard. So how do you balance all of that, being a top producer of a sports broadcast, and now you have a family that you have to go home to as well?
Yeah, and we welcomed a little Whodette a couple of months ago, so we got 2 little ones now.
Oh, you did? I didn't. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. She's already got her St. Station uniform, so she's all set.
I did not know that.
Oh,
man.
What?
Awesome.
You kind of have to, I think that I take advice from some very strong female women, women in my life who are balancing work and family and just making it happen. And one of them told me when I was very upset about going back to work after I had my first kid because I knew I was going to miss him so much. And she said, just to remember that you are modeling for him, just how much a woman can do. And I took that to heart, and that means a lot to me. And it means even more to me now that I have a daughter, that she'll see what I'm doing. Even though I can't be with her when I'm at work, she'll know that everything that I'm doing is for her and for her brother. And that means a lot. And I think one thing that really struck me was during the Super Bowl, I had to work some pretty long hours, and I picked up my son from daycare and took him to work with me. We were just in the office, and he was sort of coloring on a piece of paper, and one of our PAs at the network walked by, and she poked her head in, and she just said, hey, I've never met you, but I just want you to know, to see you in here with your son working, it motivates me, and it lets me know that I can, have a family and be in this business and make it work. And so I just want you to know that I appreciate that. And that meant a lot to me,
Wow.
Because it's easy to forget that there's a whole new generation of people who are coming up. I always think of myself as just looking at, the people who've been in the business longer than I am as my mentors, but I never thought about the fact that I am potentially, a mentor for someone, or someone who could be inspiring other women in the industry to keep pushing along and to keep breaking barriers that I possibly won't be able to break, but that they can break because, doors will have been open for them. So just sort of keeping all that stuff into perspective, listen, I know I'm not like curing cancer or anything with what I do, but it does mean something to me to know that there are, young women out there who, are passionate about this business, and they see me as someone, who's kind of reassuring them that they can make it, and that just with hard work, they can get to where they want to be. That definitely means a lot to me.
Yeah. It's very encouraging, and it's very inspiring what you have been able to accomplish, because I remember you were in DC at one time with that other network, right? And
yep.
Then when I read the story about you being over in California, and I was like, wow, she has the baby and everything. She's senior producer. That is just, I just couldn't stop talking about it. I told my wife about what you've been doing. I called Derek, the professor. I said, hey man, look, NOLA chick is doing some great things. We got to get her on. And he's like, yeah, let's try to get her on the show, man. So I appreciate you just being with us, because I know you have such a busy schedule, especially with family as well. Hey, Brendan, did you have any questions, anything you would like to kind of pick her brain at this time? Because I know this is where your heart is.
Yeah, I think one thing that I can compare to, similar to your story, is that my high school had a video broadcasting program, and that was the first opportunity that, I knew I had a passion for sports. I knew I wanted to get into sports media, but it was the first outlet I had to really go do that and kind of express some of that. And I guess the question that I have is, one of the biggest things for any college student coming out and getting your degree right after college, you don't really know what to do, where to go, where to apply, what that next step is from being a college student to being an adult with an adult job, quote unquote. So I guess the question is, where did you go right after college? What did you do? How did you apply to things? Where did you look into pursuing this type of career?
So I interned at two of the local stations here in New Orleans, WDSU and WVUE, when I was in college, and lucked up and was able to stay with WVUE. There was a great news director there at the time, Keith Esperos, who kind of took me under his wing and gave me my first opportunity as a PA and then as an AP and then eventually as a producer of the weekend newscast. What I would say is that a lot of times, first of all, I think you can't underestimate just how valuable internships are. I know for a lot of folks, if you've already graduated from college, there's a good chance you won't be able to get an internship because a lot of the programs are credit-based. But for those who are still in college and who want to get into this profession, internships. But more important than that is while you're there, you have to make an internship work for you. They'll just give you like busy work to do, sort this, file that. And I had a nice long talk with a couple of people, one of them being Norman Robinson at WDSU, who told me, listen, you can sit in the office and do what they tell you to do, and that's going to make this internship work for them, but what are you doing to make it work for you? And that stuck with me, and it meant that, okay, I'm here. I'm surrounded by people who are doing what I eventually want to do. I need to make the most of it. And so I made sure to interact with the anchors, with the producers. How can I help you? Can I write stories for you? Even if you don't put them on air, can I write it and you just give me feedback? And that was making it work for me. And even if eventually they did start putting my writing on air, but even before then, the feedback was invaluable. And it also gave me a body of work, a portfolio that I could present to people when I went to apply for a job. And I did end up applying for a job right out of college in Biloxi. I got the job, but I stayed in New Orleans since I was able to get a promotion at WVUE. So those are two really big things, trying to get some type of internship, and then once you're there, making an impact, like a strong impact on people, separating yourself from the crowd. Groups of interns would go out for lunch together, and I wouldn't go. I would stay behind because now I'm the only intern in the building. So right. I'm going to be able to have this one-on-one interaction with people that, that a lot of the other interns, they weren't getting that interaction because, it was all of us together at the same time, and we all just sort of blended in and they didn't know your name. And if you already are out of college, I say don't be afraid to go to a small market. I meet sometimes people who are fresh out of college, and it's like they think they're going to get their first opportunity as the main anchor, for CBS News or the Today Show. And I'm like, get a grip. You got to put in the work. If you luck out and get an opportunity like that, awesome for you. But in the real world, you got to grind it out. And there is something very valuable about starting in a small market and getting those mistakes out of the way on a small time scale, because the last thing you want to do, coming fresh out of college, there's so much you don't know that you don't even know you don't know. So you want to make those mistakes in a much more forgiving place with a much more forgiving audience. And that's the beauty of the small market. It's going to, market 150. It doesn't sound glamorous, but you know what? It's experience, and it's getting able to learn things that, you don't want to have to learn on a big scale in a big city where you might get fired if you make one mistake. So that's what I would say. I mean, I think that, a lot of these small markets, they ask you to be a one-man band, and you have to learn how to do pretty much everything. That sounds like it's not great, but it is great. It's not glamorous, but you are learning so much stuff. And it's all stuff that you can put on your resume, and it's all stuff that's going to impress people when you try to make that leap to a medium-sized market and, get a job in a city like New Orleans, or, even try to crack into top 10 like Atlanta or whatever. Don't underestimate the value of working somewhere small. It's easier to get opportunities there, and there's a lot that can be learned by working at one of these in one of these smaller cities for sure.
Wow, that's awesome. You know, I kind of similarly tell people the same thing when it comes to the job market. When you work for a larger company, you get so segmented and you only get to do one thing at a time, all the time. Mm-hmm. But smaller companies allow you to have the ability to multitask, as well as to be able to learn different aspects of how a business functions. And I place engineers, so it really helps a young engineer to be able to understand how to be able to just not only do the design work, how to communicate with customers, how to communicate with manufacturing. All that really helps them out. So kind of similar to what you were saying to Brendan. Now, Brendan, he does several telecasts for his college. He does the broadcast for 9 sports segments now, Brendan?
Yeah, I'm the play-by-play guy for 9 different sports, full-time for football, travel with football. Looks like it'll be the same way for men's and women's basketball. And particularly home games for men's and women's soccer, baseball, softball, women's lacrosse. I know I'm missing a few, but for the majority, traveling with football and men's and women's basketball on the road, as well as calling the home games as the play-by-play guy.
Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, he's pretty busy. Real busy.
Busy's an understatement.
Well, let me ask you this, because let's talk about home life and knowing that you have the young ones and they're looking up to you. You have your husband and he's supporting you at everything. Do you feel sometimes there's pressure on you to be able to not achieve at a high level, but to be able to maintain and to trying to figure out what's the next step for you in your career?
Yeah, I definitely think that there's pressure. I don't think that that's unique to me. I think that, for one, if you're someone who is ambitious, then you should always feel pressure. Mm-hmm. You should always be thinking, well, what's next? And I don't ever want to just be stagnant, and I don't ever want to just sort of coast. I always want to put pressure on myself to be living up to my potential. So if I'm just sort of coasting, then that means I'm probably doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's definite pressure there, and I work in a male-dominated industry. I'm in some aspects a little bit of a unicorn. A minority woman working in the capacity that I work it's not typical. So there's pressure from that aspect as well. But I can't say that I've ever been one to shy away from it, and I think pressure is a good thing because it kind of keeps you sharp. And it keeps you on your toes. And, for me, at least, it's wanting to defy stereotypes and to be an example of, let people know that, we can do, people who look like me can do this. And, we are capable. And hopefully that will open doors for, others.
Exactly. Now, tell me, how long has it been since you have taken over the role as senior producer of the show?
It's been about a year. I started in June of last year.
Okay. I will say this, and I kid you not, I noticed there was something different on how the show was being ran over this past year. From the previous years, and it's a lot smoother, a lot of better content that's being provided, in my opinion. And I just have to applaud you, because not knowing this is the time frame that you were actually at the helm is really noticeable.
I would love to take all the credit for that.
well, I can tell.
We've had some great, under the leadership of we had a new executive producer take over for the show around that time. Mm-hmm. And he is amazing. He's a jewel, and someone that I think folks around the league have recognized as just being very special from a production standpoint. Charlie Uke and